So this is it. The year of 2023 has come to a close, and most of the movies I saw this year were actually pretty good. I saw a whole lot more this year than I did in 2021 and 2022. However, here I'm not going to be talking about the movies that I liked. I'm going to be talking about the 10 most tedious, dreadful, and awful movies of the entire year. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your picks for the 10 worst movies of the year over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. If you enjoy this video, click that like button and be sure to subscribe because it really does help. And with all that said, let's just dive straight into this. Kicking off our bottom 10, we have A Ghost. This movie has several talent to spare directed towards a bad movie and plot. It's from the director of Freaky and the Happy Death Day movies, which are movies with a clever spin on them that are just fun little slashers, or some of them just being serial killers chasing other people around. And this movie, it just felt cheap and forgettable. Like, this movie tries to do so many things. It's kind of a horror movie with the ghost elements and supernatural elements and everything, but it also tries to be a comedy with comedic elements on it, and it also tries to be a family, heartfelt, emotional movie, and I don't feel like it does any three of those correctly at all, really. It's an unfunny comedy, even on those elements where none of the jokes really landed for me. The characters and the family emotional aspect to it just didn't work for me, made some of the characters more unlikable, and as a horror movie, of course, you just have to take one look at the trailers, and you can tell that this movie is not scary at all.
That was awful!
But the absolute worst part of it is that they cast David Harbour into one of the lead roles of this movie, and he doesn't get more than one word of dialogue the entire film.
Why would we do that?
This is a movie that definitely isn't worth watching. 9. Candy Cane Lane. This was one of the last movies that I watched this year. I had not seen the trailer for this movie. I didn't really know the basic premise of it, but I just was scrolling through Amazon, and there was a new Eddie Murphy Christmas comedy, so I checked it out, and it's just a cheap, direct-to-streaming, family adventure film. Maybe there's a fun, interesting concept in this, in the adventure that the characters are going on with elves and little miniature guys and stuff, with Eddie Murphy, of course, in the lead. Maybe there's a fun, interesting premise there about a man that learns the true meaning of Christmas through this wild, crazy adventure, but it all just kind of fell flat to me, as it's devoid of any kind of charm or cleverness to the jokes, the characters, and the plot. It's a forgettable film with very cheap jokes, and it's only passable enough if you're under the age of 7. Eddie Murphy has a little bit of charm, but he doesn't have the Eddie Murphy charm that you want in an Eddie Murphy comedy. This movie fails to deliver any sort of Christmas cheer or anything on that type of level.
What happened? Your balls drop off?
And not even Eddie Murphy can save this movie from being in the bottom 10 of the year. Number 8, Justice League Warworld, and I tend to go easier on direct-to-video animated movies, especially since they're from DC, because the DC direct-to-video animated movies that I have seen, I've enjoyed a bunch of the ones that I've seen. And so, since they have a limited budget, they're not theatrically released, I want to go easier on these ones, and I don't like having a direct-to-video movie in my bottom 10 of the year. But this movie is possibly one of the worst DC direct-to-video films that I have seen. Essentially, I didn't really know what to go into with this film. I haven't read a comic based on Warworld. I didn't know the central premise of this movie. I just saw Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in a direct-to-video movie, and I said, let's play that. And so I watched it by myself, and this is just a very confusingly dreadful film. It could have been a safe story with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in a war world type setting, but it chooses an odd story and storytelling structure. I mean, basically, it's 3 different stories, very, very loosely tied together by duct tape. They could easily be unrelated to each other, and actually it's like 4 storylines with a finale that I don't know if that had anything to do with the previous 3 stories. It's kind of like they took a bunch of shorts of non-DC products, meshed them together, and just plopped Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in the last 10 minutes of it. Different parts are very far detached from other ones. There's one in a desert. It goes from one to black and white like a noir detective story. And so I had no idea what I was watching for the majority of this film, and the only response that came out of me after this film was over was WTF. Next up, The Outlaws. This is a very lazy action comedy. And I don't even know if you can call this movie a comedy because the jokes are so cheap and lazy. Most of the jokes in this film involve somebody saying something really sexual, and that's supposed to get a laugh out of you.
I participated in an orgy. It's that thing where you go and you just fuck everybody.
Oh yeah, that's an orgy already.
Shut up!
And that's never been funny unless there's an actual punchline or a joke in the setup. And so, right off the bat, as a comedy, this movie throughout the humor just does not work. The movie has kind of a clever and interesting premise about a man who's gonna get married, and the person he's getting married to, her parents, his in-laws, are actual outlaws, bank robbers, working with crime lords, all that kind of stuff. And it is just dreadful. I mean, with Adam Devine and Pierce Brosnan in it, I don't think there's any excuse for how bad that this movie is. The humor just, like I said, just absolutely falls flat. Like, a whole segment in it involves Adam Devine's character going on a heist with the 2 parents to rob a bank, and he's dressed up as Shrek. And I have no idea what's supposed to be funny about that, other than he's dressed up as Shrek. And so it's like this movie didn't even know how to be a comedy or how to get a laugh out of the audience. And it's just painful to see Pierce Brosnan and Adam Devine in a movie like this. And so, just a dreadful Netflix action comedy. Insidious: The Red Door, and this was just a really disappointing addition to the Insidious franchise, and to me, a very lazy way and a very lazy excuse to bring this franchise back. I actually went in quite excited to watch this movie, as it had the return of Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne, and Ty Simpkins, the original cast of the first 2 Insidious films. And so when I saw that they were doing another film with them, I actually got pretty excited. And boy was I disappointed with this one.
And I wanted you to be better.
First of all, there's no strong plot or plot lines in the entire film. And what I mean by that is that most of the film is a series of jump scares at a college with Ty Simpkins, where he has all these crazy trippy scenarios going on where it's just jump scare after jump scare, and it's like a mystery where he and Patrick Wilson are trying to find out what's going on with each other, but they're separated, so they can't even communicate with each other throughout the movie. And on top of that, it plays like this mystery, like, what's happening to us? Why are strange things happening to us? And the audience inherently already knows that because of the ending of the second film. And that just hurt this entire movie for me. And the main plot, or the actual reveal, where the plot actually starts to move forward, is not until 20 minutes before the end credits roll.
That is a horrible story.
Come on, that's your favorite story.
And so for the most part, you have 90 minutes of generic horror movie stuff throughout the entire movie. It just loops around in circles like that. And so this, to me, is just a waste of time and not a worthy movie in the Insidious franchise. Kicking off our bottom 5, The Mother. Another generic Netflix action movie that plays into all of the action movie tropes that any generic action movie is expected to play into. There is absolutely nothing that distinguishes this movie from any other generic action movie that you have seen. And that's, to me, what's baffling about Netflix, is that every year they put out a set of action movies that just end up being so utterly forgettable, generic, play by the tropes, and this one in particular felt like it really lent into the cliches.
That's fucking stupid, Ben.
Where I knew exactly where the plot was going, so therefore there was no emotion. There was no effective character arc. It was just something that I've seen before. I've seen it done better, and this is just a charmless and lifeless version of those tropes. There is absolutely no reason that I would ever choose to rewatch this film, and it's probably the most forgettable film in my bottom 10. Then we have Meg 2: The Trench, and this movie had so much potential to be a fun film. I was one of the people who saw the original The Meg in the theater 5 years ago in 2018 as an 8-year-old kid. And at the time it was fun, but as time passed and I have time to reflect on it, I found it to be way too serious and way too forgettable for a movie that's literal premise is Jason Statham punches a megalodon. And so with Meg 2, when the trailers dropped, it didn't look like it was taking itself all that seriously, and I thought it could have been a fun film. Could have been is the very specific phrase there, because it was not a very fun film. This movie manages to crank every single thing about the original The Meg and cranks it up all the way up to 55, and it still manages to play it dead serious.
What is this shit?
I did not know what they were thinking with this film, but it just went way too over the top while also having this dead serious tone. It was way too slow, as there's no megalodons until you're more than halfway done the movie. There's no megalodons that actually participate in any of the action. Structurally, the plot is very confusing, as instead of focusing on the megalodons, it focuses on Corporation number 1 using megalodons and Corporation number 2 using megalodons. And by the end of it, I had no idea what was going on. It's like they saw the first film again and said, ooh, that was way too serious, we should crank everything up. And so by the end of it, you have Jason Statham battling a megalodon, but not just a megalodon, 3 megalodons, but not just 3 megalodons, an octopus, but not just an octopus, some random dinosaurs.
Right.
This was a movie that was so confusing, it wasn't fun to me, and I didn't enjoy it. Our dishonorable third place goes to 65. This movie has, on paper, a really good, fun, safe premise. The movie stars Adam Driver in the lead, and the trailers sold it as Adam Driver goes to Earth time travels from Earth 65 million years ago and battles dinosaurs trying to get back home. On paper, that sounds like a really good idea for a movie.
Outstanding.
Add to that, Adam Driver, of course, is in the lead. It has the writers of A Quiet Place, and Sam Raimi produced it, director of the Spider-Man Tobey Maguire trilogy and the Evil Dead movies. And with all of that talent, this movie absolutely wastes all the potential that it has.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
With its interesting concept, it absolutely wastes it, as Adam Driver is not from Earth, and he crash lands on it to fight dinosaurs. And so the movie's just automatically set 65 million years ago, and he just happens to crash land on the planet Earth where he battles dinosaurs. Therefore, he doesn't know what the dinosaurs are, which means it could have been just some random planet and some random alien creatures, and it makes absolutely no difference. But even beyond that, there's not enough dinosaur action to fill in the runtime. But also, it has attempts at emotion where Adam Driver is communicating with a girl throughout the movie. communicating with a girl throughout the movie is the key word there. It's very bland and lifeless between the two characters, as one of them cannot speak the same language as the other, so most of the movie is them walking across a planet, not enough dinosaur action, so literally just them walking. Since they can't communicate, the best conversations that they can come up with to entertain the audience is Adam Driver saying, "I'm tired" to her.
I'm just tired.
Just tired.
And so this movie is just bland and lifeless, and it absolutely wasted all its potential. I am never going to rewatch this. Dishonorable runner-up goes to Best Christmas Ever, a bad, dreadful, cringy Christmas comedy dropped straight on Netflix. I had not seen a trailer for this movie before watching it. I just scrolled through Netflix, much like Candy Cane Lane, found a Christmas movie, and put it on. And it was so unbelievably bad. It has a very odd concept that is weird to make in the present day of 2023, as the basic premise of this movie is a communication through email newsletter that nobody reads a newspaper in the year 2023. So it's just a very odd concept right out of the gate. Our lead character is way too unlikable and envious. Our lead character from Heather Graham, way too unlikable, and unlikable to the point where you don't want to see her succeed. You don't want her to have redemption, because when she does have redemption, you just don't care. And so that's another thing that just killed this entire movie for me. She's so jealous of another character who isn't that much memorable either, isn't all that great of a person herself, and so all the characters aren't just written very well, not really meant to be likable, and so you don't care about any of the characters, and the performances are actually really bad in this movie, I would say. Like, I don't think any of the actors wanted to be here filming this movie. It didn't, while they're acting happy in the movie, I didn't feel the charm, the happiness, and I feel like maybe it's because the actors just didn't want to be there on set.
It's gonna be the best Christmas ever.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
And so this is a film that I suggest to all parents: do not have your kids suffer through this dreadful Christmas comedy. But the worst movie of the year, The Exorcist Believer. Just a cynical attempt to make money using the Exorcist name that doesn't at all do any kind of justice to the original film and is not a worthy successor to that film. Now, if you've seen the trailers for this movie, one of the big standouts of it is that they bring Chris McNeil back, right? As she's prominently shown in the trailers as this big part.
No, I think we've had enough of your jokes.
She's literally in the movie for only 5 minutes. And so, right off the bat, just using that character in the trailers to try to make money off of your terrible movie is automatically just cynical.
Why are you the way that you are?
Likewise, our lead character, I don't really care about. He doesn't make good decisions, and the arc that he's given is literally him apologizing for making a bad decision, and so that's already not even a good character arc, and it doesn't make me care about the character.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
But what really solidifies this movie as the worst of the year is through the plot, story, and especially what happens at the end. So let me break it down a little bit for you. It starts off as a pretty generic horror movie where 2 girls get lost in the woods, they're found, and they get possessed, and strange things start happening, so an exorcism is called to form.
One girl lives, one girl dies.
You get to choose.
And when the exorcism is called to form, they call in multiple different religions to do the exorcism all at once.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
From there, one of the priests backs out of the exorcism. No! So it just all goes downhill from there. The exorcism doesn't seem to be working. The priest that backed out walks back in, and he performs an exorcism along with everybody else. It seems to be working. You think there's a sense of hope. and then the priest dies. Just really uplifting stuff, you know? And so, to close out the lead character's arc, he reaches out to his daughter while she's being possessed, apologizes to her for his bad mistakes in the past. You don't really care about his arc, but he apologizes to her, and so you think the exorcism is just going to end there because it seems to be working, and you think there's another sense of hope. And then the dad of the other girl comes in and says, "Hey, I choose you to live, I choose you to die."
No! No!
This is definitely not a satisfying ending, and even worse, they go move on, like, they're just like, "Aw, friendship overtakes everything though," and they resume their normal lives like nothing happened. No PTSD, nothing.
What?
I do not know how this story was greenlit, and the people that made this up, I cannot believe, actually released this in theaters, and it's just a very cynical film that I'm never gonna rewatch. I did not enjoy this movie from beginning to end, and so to me, the least I could do is declare your terrible movie the worst movie of the year. There you have it. Those are my picks for the 10 worst movies of 2023. Over on my channel, I have more content like this. Check those out right now. Click that like button and be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I will see you in the next one.